K-pop Demon Hunter is the kind of movie that you watch and love, but when you go to bed, you start realizing that there are things that make absolutely no sense. Which is why in this video, I'm going to be going through the list of mistakes that happened in the movie. From Mira becoming a ghost in the movie, to the plane at the beginning of the movie becoming a character in the movie, to Mira challenging the laws of physics like a demon. There's a particular secret that will blow your minds, and I will reveal it at the end of this video. So like and subscribe, let's get to it. This first mistake is something that I noticed immediately. It has to do with Roomie's earring. So I'm sure we all remember that cheeky fan signing where the Saja boys and Huntrix sat together. Now, in that crazy scene, when the boys were about to leave, I saw Roomie standing aside. Something was happening with her ears, so I looked really closely at her ears. What I saw just made me laugh. She was wearing only one earring. Like, just one ear had an earring on it. But every time she turned, the earring would move from the ear it was on to another ear. It was really funny and it made me want to share it with you guys. But another question that crossed my mind was this: why was a superstar wearing just one earring? Did she lose the other one? Or is that someone's idea of fashion? Or is the one earring also a mistake? It makes me curious. But not as curious as the next mistake. And this one happened in the girls' living room. After we saw them getting themselves all hyped up to begin making a diss song that would take down the Saja boys, all of them began to run out of the living room. Well, all except Bobby. Roomie and Zoe ran out first, while Mira followed behind them. And that was when the mistake happened. If you slowed down the scene where Mira jumped over a couch, you'd see that she didn't completely jump over a couch. Instead, she jumped through the couch. I know, you probably think I'm talking too much nonsense, but I promise you that I am not. All you have to do is slow the movie down and watch very closely. You will see that Mira phased through the couch like a ghost. At number 3, I have a mistake that makes me think that the filmmakers were just freestyling. It's about Roomie. I know you must be thinking, again? Well, yeah, the movie centers on her, and so do the mistakes. As a matter of fact, she's going to be appearing quite a lot in this video. So the first mistake with Roomie's markings that we see in the movie was right at the beginning. There was a flashback in which younger Roomie attended a red carpet event with Celine. In that flashback, Roomie was wearing a cute sleeveless gown that showed her arms and neck. But here's the thing, she didn't have any demon markings anywhere on her body in that scene. And you might say that she was a child, so the demon marks hadn't started manifesting yet. But another flashback just proves that thought wrong. In another flashback, we saw Roomie still around that young age. She was with Celine, who was combing her hair, and we could see the demon markings on her body. Also, in the scene where the girls went to meet healer Han to treat Roomie's voice, you'd see that there was a picture of Huntrix on the wall. Healer Han had added himself to the picture, but that is beside the point. In that picture, Roomie was wearing a sleeveless shirt again, but there were no demon markings on her arm. And this time she is an adult, so you can't cook up any excuses for our dear Missy. While we are still talking about the center of the universe, Roomie, let me let you in on another mistake that she was involved in. This one happened in the bathhouse when she was fighting Jinu. And this particular mistake makes me really sad because the mistake happened in a scene that was going so perfectly. I mean, didn't you see how Roomie chased Jinu through that hallway? That animation was top tier. The action was insane. This girl was gunning for his head like she wanted to send him to the afterlife like immediately. Everything was going good. Jinu tore the sleeve of her shirt with his demon claws, and Roomie was about to take that boy's head off with her sword. And that was when I noticed that something wasn't right. I couldn't find the tear in her sleeve. I mean, Jinu just tore the sleeve. We all saw it. So how come we couldn't find it anymore? It's almost like the whole thing just up and disappeared. But about a second or two later, the tear reappeared. That was the recipe to completely ruin a scene that I was enjoying so much. Not cool. Another mistake that a lot of people saw and couldn't understand what was going on happened towards the end of the movie. While fans were trooping into the arena to go watch the boys perform Your Idol, we saw a fan that was wearing a t-shirt with Gui Ma's name on it. At first, I was like, it didn't mean anything. In fact, I almost didn't notice it. But seconds later, I was like, wait a minute. And I had to take the movie back to the scene where I saw the fan. Humans aren't supposed to know about demons, let alone know about the king of demons, and yet here we were with a human character that was wearing merchandise with the name of the king of demons on it. Mind you, this is the first time Gui Ma has come to the human world since the first demon hunters sealed him, so how could the filmmakers be so careless? Speaking of carelessness, here is another scene that the animators of the movie just didn't handle well. Remember the eye-catching soda pop performance that the Saja boys gave us earlier in the movie? There was something that happened during that performance that made me almost fall off of my seat from laughter. While the boys were dancing their hearts out, there was this tiny detail that not a lot of people noticed, but when you finally notice it, you will never be able to watch that scene the same way again. So we had the boys dancing and jumping so beautifully, but all of a sudden I noticed their legs doing something very weird. Their legs were basically dancing with the wind, and that is me putting it lightly. Their legs were wiggly like they had no bones in them. It made me think of all the worst possible things. I began wondering how they could stand with such legs, but then I shook my head and just convinced myself that it was a silly mistake in one scene. That didn't affect the movie in any way. But you should know that this next mistake affected the entire movie, and shockingly, it's about a character you wouldn't even expect it to be, Zoe. Zoe was that character that we all liked and wanted to see more of, but the movie didn't let us because we were too focused on Roomie. And the one time they focused on Zoe, they decided to make a silly, stupid mistake that could affect the movie badly. What time was that? Well, it was at the beginning of the movie when each of the girls was getting flashbacks. In Zoe's flashback, we saw her writing songs while she was in school in America. At first glance, it looks like there is no mistake here to judge, but when you look closer, you will see what is written on one of Zoe's lyric books. She literally had the word demon written on one of her lyric books. But here's the problem with that scene. The whole scene was from when Zoe wasn't even a demon hunter. At this point, she didn't even know demons existed. And to make matters worse, she crossed out the O in the word, as though demons are targets that she wanted to take down. That's like giving someone knowledge from the future, because there's no other explanation for Zoe having such knowledge at that time other than it's been a mistake. Number 8. Here the Saja boys come. I actually thought about how funny it is for the Saja boys to appear more than once on this list, because they aren't even part of the main characters, and yet they are important enough to get their own mistakes. Anyways, so this mistake happened when the TV announcer was declaring the winners of the Idol Awards. While the broadcast glitched to the Saja boys' announcement, there was something in that glitch that no one noticed. The glitch moved too fast, so human eyes couldn't catch what was hidden inside it, but once you slow it down, the mistake becomes very obvious. And a mistake there was that the filmmakers accidentally revealed the Saja boys' demon within that glitch. When I saw it, I was completely speechless because I didn't know what to say. Here's another mistake that left me speechless, not because it was too shocking, but because I was baffled by the level of foolishness that was shown in one scene. This one has to do with our dear girl again, Roomie. Remember that scene where Roomie saw Jinu drink one of her tonic pouches while performing Soda Pop? We saw her quickly count the amount of tonic pouches that were left in the box she was carrying, and the total number of pouches she counted was 6. Now, if we add the one Jinu was drinking, we have a total of 7 tonic pouches. But that doesn't make any sense, and here's why. When Jinu bumped into Roomie earlier and sent all her tonic pouches flying in the air, we saw the girls pack the pouches back into the box, and I counted as they packed them. The girls put back a total of 13 pouches into the box, and yet somehow Roomie counted only 6 a few minutes later. In what world does that make sense? You see why I said I was speechless. Still on Roomie, here is a mistake that made me slap myself to be sure that I wasn't dreaming things up. It happened while the girls were preparing for the first live performance of Golden. Roomie, being the difficult teammate that she usually is, had her own personal dressing room, and in the scene where she was dressing, we saw her zip up her turtleneck shirt and put on her jacket, all while looking into a mirror. But then barely a second later, we saw that she was wearing some kind of X-strap belt over her chest. It was under her jacket, so we should have seen her wear the X-strap belt before putting on the jackets, but we didn't see such a thing happen. So where did this sudden adornment come from? It's like the filmmakers are looking us in the eye and winging it whenever they feel like, and this leads to unnecessary mistakes. Speaking of winging it, I think that's what happened in this mistake on the plane. The writers backed themselves into a corner with the storyline of demons hijacking a plane, and instead of some critical thinking, they just went along with the flow. If it's not complete madness, why would they make demons fly the plane when we all know that demons can't do diddly squat in the human world? Demons can't fly a plane because they don't know how human things work. Anyways, on this next mistake, we saw something that not many people saw in the arena before the final battle started. Just after Roomie walked into the arena, she began singing and walking to the stage. Now Zoe and Mira were at the upper sides of the arena, and for them to come down would have been quite the journey. But we saw the girls suddenly appear close to the ground and walk to meet Roomie in the middle. How is that possible? Did they suddenly get the powers of teleportation? You want to know what's funny? As reckless as this sounds, the next mistake is by far more reckless. You might think I'm exaggerating, but I'm telling you, this mistake was reckless, and if it happened to me, I'd be really humiliated. It happened when the Saja boys were performing Soda Pop. We saw them handing out gifts, being all friendly to the community. But if you zoom really closely to one of the scenes where they were giving out gifts to children, you will see that Abby Saja had his butt out in the open. I'm not joking. His cheeks were basically saying hello to us while his pants were struggling to hold on. It took me by surprise when I saw that scene, and I still haven't recovered. Next up is a mistake that was so big it shot a hole through the plot of the entire movie. And this mistake happened when the girls were performing at the Idol Awards. During that performance, we learned that demons can shapeshift. They shapeshifted into Bobby, Mira, and Zoe. Now, that single act alone was a mistake, and I will tell you how it blew a hole through the entire movie. The whole idea of the Saja boys is to steal the fans. So why bother building a new K-pop group to steal the fans if you could just make yourselves look like the girls and steal their fans? I mean, it's that simple, isn't it? But I guess the filmmakers didn't think that way. At number 15, I'll say something that will shock a lot of you. The Miro Mabi edit was a mistake, and don't come for my throat until you hear my reason for saying this. The outfit Mira was wearing in that edit was the same one she wore to Healer Han's shop. You must remember that the girls going to Healer Han's shop was a secret. Even Bobby didn't know about it. And yet somehow a fan was able to get a close-up picture of Mira from that day and use it in an edit. Now we all know that didn't happen, so where did the picture come from? And don't even get me started on the girls floating in the air at the end of the movie. The girls don't have the power to fly, and yet they are able to. What made that thing particularly annoying was that fans were cheering them like it was normal to see human beings fly without the help of an aircraft of some sort. I have no words. This next mistake is about a character we only see once in the entire movie, the co-host of the Spice game show. After he had defeated all the Saja boys in the competition, except Baby, we saw that he was struggling to keep up. His eyes were red, his skin was red, and his lips and cheeks were completely stained with hot sauce. But seconds later, after Baby was declared the winner, this co-host suddenly looked clean as new. His eyes were clear, there were no sauce stains all over his face or even on any part of his clothes. It's shocking. For number 18, we're going to have to go back to the plane scene. We saw the girls talking about the show they were heading to. They said it was going to be their biggest show with the most songs and the most moves. And if I'm being honest, I could see that this was definitely their biggest show. Did you see that crowd? So they got that right. But what they didn't get right was the number of songs. The girls started singing How It's Done from the plane. And by the time they got to the show, they were halfway through the song. So they performed half a song. So saying most songs was definitely a mistake. Another mistake that happened but no one paid attention to was Abby's buttons shooting off when the Saja boys first ran into Huntrix. We all saw that. All the buttons on that tight shirt shot off. But barely seconds later, all the buttons were back like they never left, and his shirt was completely buttoned down. This boy was aura farming on a foolish mistake. That makes me want to drag him through the mud. The 20th mistake was just everyone confusing me. A lot of souls went down into the demon world, and yet we see Guima eat only one soul. That was already a red flag on its own. But then Jinu says, that soul is just a starter. He was referring to just one soul. This is an honest question. Has everyone forgotten how to count? Let's move on before I get mad. Now, in this mistake, the whole movie was confused. During the rehearsal of Takedown, Mira tells Roomie that they don't have time to change songs because the Idol Awards are tomorrow. Later that night, Jinu tells Roomie he'll make sure the Saja boys lose tomorrow. Walk with me now. The next day, which is the long-awaited tomorrow, Roomie tells the girls she knows they can win tomorrow. Girl, what are you talking about? The Idol Awards were that night. Get yourself in order. Anyways, let's move on. Before I tell you about this mistake, I'll have you know that it happened on the plane. You might be wondering why that is important. Well, let's just say that the number of mistakes that happened in that plane scene is enough to qualify the plane as a character in the movie. In this mistake, we saw the girls dive into a tray of gimbap. Like, they ate through the whole tray in seconds. But when Roomie wanted to get hot water for their ramyeon, we saw that tray again, and this time it was filled with kimbap all over again. For a second, I began doubting my own memory. I asked myself if I was sure I saw the girls eat that tray of gimbap. I even took the movie back to confirm, and yeah, they really ate it up. It's like the gimbap appeared and disappeared. Talking about food, while the Saja boys were performing soda pop, they began being extra nice. They went around giving gifts and helping people do things. And one of the things they did was help a girl apply mustard to her corn dog. When Huntrix saw this, they quickly rushed the girl and grabbed the corn dog out of her hand. He threw it to the floor and stepped on it like a stampede. What was shockingly wrong with this scene was that this corn dog refused to break. As a matter of fact, it began bouncing like a rubber toy instead. And hey, I'm no food expert, but I know that food isn't supposed to bounce like that. It's like the filmmakers abandon logic whenever they step into the studio to do their work. And the next mistake proves it even more. Back to the plane scene, our star plane. When the girls jumped out of the plane, we saw a few crazy things. But the things Mira did were crazier than anything you can think of. The girl was combing her hair while falling from a plane. If that didn't just make your eyes widen in shock, let me put it in context so you can understand better. You would find it difficult to tie your hair while sticking your head out of the window of a moving car because your hair would be flapping all over the place. Yet somehow you expect me to believe that this girl was falling at hundreds of miles an hour and somehow she was still able to comb her hair? Funny enough, that's not even the craziest part. The craziest part has to be the fact that she was using a hairdryer. The airbrushing through her hair and against her face is stronger than anything that the hairdryer is going to release, so she wouldn't even feel the impact of it. And yet she was using it. These guys just keep doing whatever they want in this movie, and it keeps annoying me. And it keeps going downhill from there. We saw how the girls looked down from the plane after it had been divided in two. Like, the plane was still cruising well enough that the girls could stand without holding anything for support. Do you know how delusional that is? And the funniest part is that while they were falling from the sky, there wasn't any debris from the plane falling as well. I can make a list of things that don't add up or make sense in that plane crash, but I can't make a list inside another list, so we'll just leave that madness for now. Let's continue to the next mistake that occurred in that godforsaken plane. This mistake is one of those mistakes that you can't understand how you didn't notice because it was too big to not notice. I'm sure you can remember that table the girls ate on the plane. Well, I'm sure that none of you noticed that when the girls got up to confront the demons, the tables disappeared. I'm not even joking about it. You can watch that scene again and look behind the girls while they are talking to the demons. You'll see that the table isn't behind them. And when they started fighting, everything in the plane disappeared, all the chairs and whatnot. But what made me weak was when Roomie suddenly placed a cup of ramyeon on an empty table. Where did the table come from? It isn't the same as the one the girls were eating on. But even if it is, then where is all the food that was on it? The mistakes in this movie just keep getting annoying as we go down the list. Moving on to Zoe, that girl had what was probably one of the most silly mistakes in the entire movie. Let's take a look at that scene where the girls met the boys for the first time. There was attraction and admiration in the air, and the girls were literally blown away. Well, at least Mira and Zoe at first. We saw Zoe's hat blown off the top of her head in complete awe of the guys. And yet, when Abby Saja began doing that totally unnecessary stretch to show off his abs and biceps, we saw Zoe's hat in her hand with popcorn popping out of her eyes and into the hat. She was using her hat as a popcorn bucket, the same hat that was blown away seconds ago. The hat we never saw her pick up was now in hand and filled with popcorn. I hope you hear how bad that sounds. And shockingly, that's not the only mistake that Zoe and her hat were involved in. The next time she saw Zoe and her hat messing things up was when the Saja boys were performing Soda Pop. There was a point in that performance that the bows began blowing kisses to people. And these kisses took the form of solid hearts. One was thrown at Roomie, but Mira caught it really quickly. Another was thrown at Zoe, and it hit her in the face, knocking her hat off. But when Zoe got back up, she had her hat on her head. That mistake almost made me give up when I was rewatching the movie. But you should have seen the way I rolled my eyes when the heart hit Zoe after Mira caught the one that was supposed to hit Roomie. I was like, come on, does the plot love her that much? Anyways, at 29, there's a detail that blew my mind right out the back of my head. So you remember that scene where the girls were trying to write takedown? Things weren't going well for them, and Zoe began crawling to the wall of pictures and posters. If you look to the right, you'd see a picture of the Saja boys in their demon form, wearing their demon hanbok. You'd have to concentrate on the right to see that picture. Now, you might ask, what is wrong with that picture? After all, it's just a picture of the Saja boys, and the wall is filled with their pictures. True, but what you're forgetting is that the girls never saw the Saja boys in their hanbok. As a matter of fact, the boys wore that outfit only twice in that movie. The first was when Jinu pitched the idea of a demon boy band to Guima, and the second was during their performance of Your Idol, which hadn't even happened yet. So you see what I mean. Finally, the mistake that I promised. Can you guess who it is about? Oh yes, our one and only self-absorbed Roomie. I know that by now you're getting tired of hearing her name on this list. I mean, even I am tired of saying her name. But what can we do? She has more plot armor than we can fight against. This mistake has to do with something that makes absolutely no sense. Imagine you're a vampire. Would you go out in the sun? The answer is a clear-cut no. Well, that is exactly what Roomie did. In that sequence where the girls went out hunting for demons, there was this quick shot where a demon attacked 3 Ajumas who were jogging. Roomie swooped out and cut down the demon in the blink of an eye. But this is where things get really interesting. That scene moved too fast, so a lot of you can see what happened in the background. But if you've just slowed it down, like a lot, you would see that Roomie was wearing a crop top shirt with short sleeves. Remember my question about if you would go out in some light if you were a vampire? Well, this is exactly where it applies. Roomie was going out hunting with her friends who she was hiding her demon markings from, and yet she chose to wear something that showed her skin. And her skin actually showed in that scene, but shockingly, there were no demon markings, not on her neck, arm, or tummy. They just didn't exist. And what's funny about this scene is that Roomie had actually worn this outfit in a previous scene. And in that scene, she hid from her friends because she didn't want them to see her demon markings. So where did she suddenly get the courage from to wear those particular clothes while going out hunting with her friends? Anyways, that's all for today. Leave your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Bye.